Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about two of my favorite features in Excel, text to columns and flash fill. Now the first one is text to columns. Now sometimes you're going to get data like this. So this column is really not that helpful. We can't add anything, we can't subtract. If we wanted to know how much money was spent by a customer that day, we could multiply the number of orders by how much money was spent, but we can't multiply these two. It's not going to work. If I were to try that, so equals this times this, it's going to give me an error. Press Ctrl Z. So for this one, we would have to split this and separate the word dollars from the number. So let's do that. And we're going to be doing that with text to columns. So let's go ahead and insert a column to the right. And we do that because when it splits this, it's going to use the empty column to the right, and if there was data there in this column, it would actually try to overwrite it, but we don't want that. So we're going to have an empty column. Now we're going to select this, Control-Shift down. We're going to press text to columns. Now we can do this one of two ways. One, we can use a delimiter, or we can use a fixed width. So let's try the fixed width. So we can set a certain width, either one character or two characters, that'll split this into two columns, the numbers and the letter. So we could do it by one character. So 8, 7, this looks pretty good. You scroll down, but then you'll see it actually separates the 10. So we don't want that. We want it to be a number and then the word dollars. So let's go back. So we can use a delimiter. All right. We can use this space. Usually it's by tab by default, but if we click this space, now what it's doing is looking for that space and says, okay, separate this into two columns, one, the word dollars, and the number, because it looks for that space, because there's a number, then there's a space, then there's a word. So it says, okay, separate this into two columns by the space. So that's what it's doing there. So let's go ahead and press next. So yes, general, text, date. Let's press finish. And what do you know? It separated the number from the word dollars. Let's see if there's any trailing spaces. Nope, none there. None there. That looks good. Let's look at the number 10. Oh, no space. No space. Looks good. So we can go ahead and get rid of this column. Now let's look at something, in my opinion, is an underused feature in Excel, which is flash fill. So it's up here. Now we can do this in quite a few different ways. Let's go ahead and insert a column here. Now we can do this in a number of ways. If, for instance, we wanted a column with all the customer's initials, we could do this. We could either go equals left, and go over here and say number of characters 1, and we can combine that with left, this one over here, then 1, then exit out of that. You actually need to close off this as well. Right here. There we go. So we could do that. And since this is a table, it automatically fills the rest. But that's a bit long. It's a bit much. If you don't know too much about these kind of formulas, it can be a little tricky. Let's go ahead and delete this. Control-Shift down, delete. Because there's actually a much easier way to do this. We can just simply type in JP, next line. And right here, we can click the flash fill. Because what that does, it picks up the pattern in the columns to the left, and it tries to finish it. So let's see what happens when I click flash fill. Would you look at that? JP for Joseph Pierce, DL for Daniel Lynch. Yep, it's doing it perfectly. Pretty cool, huh? We could also do it another way. Control-Shift down, delete. We could do it. We could do JP. Next line we could do D. And it tries to automatically fill that. Now in the advanced features in Excel, you should have it automatically set to flash fill. That's how I have mine set. I think it's like that by default as well, but if it's not, you can go to your advanced options and click automatically flash fill. And go and press enter. And sure enough, it automatically flash fills. There's also one more way we can do it. We can also do JP, go down, then we can press Control E, and it'll automatically flash fill. Cool, huh? So that's one way of doing this. You can also change the case of these words by making it proper, making it all caps, or even combining the columns. Let's try Piers Joseph, Control E. Some companies like that comma separator. Let's try something else. Let's try Joseph. Control E. So you can do all kinds of things with this flash fill. So I would encourage you to experiment and find out what else you can do. So let's say you had a list of employees rather than customers. Let's say you wanted to give each one of the employees an email address by the company's name. So we could do J. Piers at michaelscotttoys.com and enter. And let's see what happens when we flash fill it. There we go. J. Piers at mstoys.com. Looks good. J. Lynch. Shouldn't it be D. Lynch? So that doesn't quite work. So in this one, we need to give it a bit more information. Let's try D. Lynch at mstoys.com. Now let's try flash fill. Alright, so we have M. Guzman, it's Mila Guzman. One down, E. Long, Emma Long. Yep, looks like it's working fine. So sometimes you do have to give Excel a little bit more information before the flash fill can be complete. We can go ahead and delete this. You can also do the same thing with dates. Oops. You can also do the same thing with dates. So let's try 2020. Let's try general. And for this one, we can just click flash fill. Now it says, okay, all these are 2020. And I think that's all we have in this one. No, we do have 19. Let's go and filter it by 19. And sure enough, it's looking at each one, and it's flash filling it by the year. Also, another thing to keep in mind, when you're using flash fill, let's do this again, JP, there we go. When you're using flash fill, it's not dynamic, which means it's not a formula or anything like that. So if I deleted that, it's not going to delete this flash fill column. It's going to leave it as is. So if any of these change, we would have to change these as well. So just something to keep in mind. So flash fill and text to columns are probably two of my favorite features in Excel, and I hope you enjoy them as well. Hope this lesson was helpful, and I'll see you again in the next lesson.